Welcome back to Modelbase Alpha. My name's Andy, and this episode, as you probably saw from the thumbnail, Nuclear Waste Disposal Area 2. Literally 5 minutes ago, UPS demanded another $32 from me before they'd hand it over, but I did, and it's now in my sweaty paws, so let's get on with opening this up. I will say that there was another version done by Larson Designs years ago, but I've never seen it, and I've never seen anyone build it, so it'd be interesting to see how this one differs from the pictures I've seen of that. So let's get unpacking. Didn't take long to get here. It was literally just a few days, so at least there's that. Okay, first of all, a base for the eagle. Very nice. And I'm guessing, well, why guess? Why not just wait until it's opened up? Okay. Two, looks like the runways that the lowering device runs along. And of course, the interesting part, just move these out of the way. These are very nicely, looks like a 3D print, just a little bit of cleanup here and there. And interestingly enough, Chris Trice recently identified this originally as a cake tin. So yeah, if you wanted to store your sponge cakes, radioactive or not, some available on eBay still apparently. So yeah, you can use it for a biscuit tin as well. So put your chocolate hobnobs in there, or Jaffa cakes or whatever. Winch device, and what looks like the section, there's a small radar communications disc that goes on the front here. Looks like support beams. Again, these are very nicely printed, just a little bit of cleanup required. And these are the three, and why there was three and not four, who knows. But these are the little transporter devices that run along the section's edge. And then some miscellaneous details here. There's this oval circular part that goes on the rear, and some waste canisters, thankfully empty. So 4 of those. And then one final piece by the looks of it. One more girder support section. And that looks like it. There are some very brief instructions for putting this together, but It's actually fairly simple, so it shouldn't be overly complex to do. I believe that this is a limited edition, so if you're looking to get hold of one, try Facebook. I'm not even going to begin to attempt to pronounce the gentleman's name, as he's Italian. I wouldn't want to risk offending him, but I'll put the contact details in the description below. So please join me as I build this diorama. I've got a few things extra planned for it, and yeah, looking forward to getting stuck into this one. So let's get going. I'd like to say that cleanup is well underway. It's certainly underway. I'm not sure if well underway is an accurate way of describing anything. Been working on this cake tin section, and this was, well, it did have some slight texture and very slight 3D lines, but there's something still within this resin, but it's actually pretty smooth. I seem to have got it nice and flat, and not feeling anything to the touch. So what I did do, and I'm glad I did, is wash these, well, I washed all of it, but these larger sections did have a kind of filmy, a little bit of a filmy residue. I've not noticed it on these other different grayer parts, but these larger parts, definitely worth giving them a wash before doing anything. And what I'm going to be doing next is my usual go-to, well, slightly different. My usual go-to is white, but in this case I'm going to try Tamiya's Surface Primer Grey for these, mainly because I have more grey than white, but I think it might also be a little bit better coverage for these. Also been cleaning up some of the smaller parts, and these mobile sections, it's worth mentioning, I think, that two are different to the third, basically two on one side, one on the other. So these are keyed for this support section, so might want to keep that in mind just to save any surprises. But the other interesting thing is these are cut down FX troop carriers. Had one of these, or at least one of these as a kid. Never really liked the pre-built ones. They were always kind of poorly made. They're usually kind of at least just a couple of pieces, maybe 3 or 4, or depending on which vehicle. This one's kind of like 4, with some cheap rolly wheels, and as you can see, it's had some use. So but what this was cut down and yeah, smoothed off and flattened out and used as the basis for the transportation. So if you want to build a studio scale, you're going to need 3 of these. And yeah, if you want, keep an eye out, because you can pick them up reasonably cheaply. Don't pay a fortune. But like I say, continuing with the cleanup, because I can't do any building as I'm out of super glue. So gonna keep on keeping on, and we'll be back shortly. It's Thursday afternoon, and I haven't got, well, any filming done. I was going to say I haven't got as much filming done as I'd have liked, but I haven't got anything done. What I have done is stuck some grey primer on here, and basically, yeah, you can't really tell. It's basically the same colour, well, almost. It does show a little bit of cleanup to be done, and I don't know if you can really tell, but this top section is textured, and the thing is, I'm liking the texture. I don't know if making everything totally smooth. I think this is a nice, interesting additional feature. Some of these top sections have been smoothed, but I'm really liking the contrast. So working my way round and seeing what I'm going to do with that. And yeah, so, but I have been preoccupied. Not quite sure what's going to happen, if anything, at this point. But when you have an idea and you think, yeah, I'd like to do that, that might be fun, and somebody else says, yeah, that might work, because it's kind of exciting, and not really sure, because I can't say really what's going to happen, because it might not happen. Then the only thing that will be happening is me coming back and editing this out of the video. However, should it happen, look out for something interesting sometime after Manchester 1999. Like I say, I can't really say exactly what, mainly because it's only just been thought about and is currently up in the air and obviously dependent upon several factors. But that will be interesting if that happens. So if I can't say anything else, then obviously I'll make some sort of update. But suffice to say, I'm having a celebratory cup of tea. And yeah, gonna get back to this because stocked up with super glue and got my primer ready to go, and yeah, I'm going to be back, going to make some headway into this, and because there's a lot to do on this. As I've indicated, this is going to be a diorama, and yeah, this is another thing of biting off more than I can chew, I think. Thought this was going to be fairly easy, and this bit is fairly easy, but everything else I want to do, yeah, we'll see, because like I say, this could be a bridge too far, but I'll get down to it, and hopefully things, fingers crossed, are going to work out in more ways than one. So despite how the workbench may look, it's actually been about a good 3 months or so since I actually worked on this, so decided to get back to it because it's something I've been wanting to do, but the build itself is fairly easy. You just slap a few things together, but I want to do a little bit more. So I have done a little bit of work before starting to film this, and I don't know if you can tell, this has actually been sanded and is quite smooth, but there are other places, there are kind of these wavy lines that are not deep, but certainly noticeable. So had a word with Uncle Jeff, and he agreed to send some of this if I was to send him some money in an exchange. So yeah, going to give that a go, because it's not only a filler and a primer, it's also sandable. So I'm thinking if it does overflow over these grooves, then hopefully be able to get a nice finish. So then I'll need to move on to this main section, and this is the section that's been causing me to kind of pause, because I'm also trying to follow my own advice from a few builds ago, when I said I was going to try and pay more attention to reference material. And yeah, there's not a lot of reference material for this. So basically what happens is this sits in here, and then that sits on top. Job done. But because I want to do something a little bit different, studying the reference material, well, the reference material amounts to literally 2, maybe 3 seconds of an overhead angled view of this, the very, very start of Breakaway. So, yeah, this doesn't actually look like this in the show. This is here, but this floor section obviously isn't, because obviously then there's no way to lower the canisters into the ground. So what I want to do, and what I will be doing next, is removing this entire section. And before I do, I'm going, because this is a good distance away and looks relative to what's on the TV show, is make a, because this is also going to go, make a support that goes from in here to the wall, because obviously there's no way to support it. And if you do look at the very, very start, what happens underneath is this loading section actually goes up and down. I mean, the top bit remains in the same position, so there's obviously an extender underneath that goes down. And then there's also something underneath that moves the canisters and positions them around the silo. And you can see it, but it's literally, even with the Blu-ray, it's kind of blurred and you cannot really make anything out. So going to skip that part, because what I'm hoping is, if you kind of view it from the same angle as the intro, then it's going to look more or less like the same sort of thing, and you're not going to be able to see whatever attachment is on the bottom of this. So that's the plan, and hopefully it's going to look okay and going to work. So next step then, like I said, remove the bottom of this, remove this, make an attachment for this, and hopefully there's a little ridge here on the back, so might be a good mounting point. And yeah, we'll see what that looks like. This is probably going to take a little while, because this is kind of thick. This is also a good 5mm thick, and obviously I don't want anything breaking, snapping and destroying the rest of the structure. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to work out, and we'll see how that turns out. Surprisingly, sometimes things go well, and one of the things that has gone well is the removal of most of the bottom section here. And as you can see, I've begun to putty these inside pieces, because this was actually 2 layers with a gap in between where the putty is. Just had a few very thin supports, literally I think there was about 4, which were kind of evenly spaced each side. So put the putty in for 2 reasons. Obviously didn't want a gap showing down here, although it's going to be covered over to a large extent. Even here you can see down inside, I didn't want a gap, and also just to kind of strengthen it a little bit. So yeah, glad I did that. That still needs to be smoothed off, and maybe a little bit more putty here and there, but for the most part I think that's actually come out fairly good. And the other thing is the base the eagle lands on. Used the Rust-Oleum primer, and sure enough, once I got a coating on and started to sand it, it started to come up. Well, first of all, it's just smooth as a very smooth thing. So as you can see, there's still a little bit of work to do around the edges. But for a first coat, and a first sanding, not even an aggressive sanding, just a very light going over. Very pleased with the result, and if you need to coat a large area and sand it down, this stuff seems to be working a treat. And I think it was fairly cheap for this size. I think it was $6-7. So yeah, very surprised and very pleased. So that's working out a treat. Definitely going to give it another light coat and another light sanding, just to hopefully get rid of these few marks around. I mean, not that they're in any way, shape or form feelable. They are totally smooth, but if I can actually get those out the way, then yeah, result. So going to carry on. Trying to follow my own advice from either the last build or the build before. Been trying to take more care and more notice of what I'm actually doing, and perhaps what the original studio piece looked like. This, I guess you'd call it the main crane section, or elevator part that lowers the nuclear waste canisters into the silo. This side has 4 rectangular indentations, and this one also has 4, and then this side there's 1 long one. Now, looking at the reference material, of which it's extremely limited, so what I'm going to try and do is put up a screenshot, and instead of this being one, I guess you'd just call it indented rectangle, what it actually looks like is there's grooves. So if you put a piece of plastic, and much like Blue Peter, here's one I did earlier, there are 2 grooves, one each side, and I can only assume that's to enable this thing to move vertically. So I'm pretty sure that looks like the original studio model. I'm pretty sure that's 2 grooves and not recessed like this. So I'm going to go with this, and also put this side in as well. We'll see when it's spray painted how it's looking, but I think that's going to be the way to go. The other thing I noticed is on the rear there's a section for this part to go, like so, and then on top of that goes this canister, I guess, whatever you want to call it, tank, and that sits on there like that. Now, once again, looking at the intro to Breakaway, I see this. I don't see this, unless I'm missing something. To me, it looks like this sits directly to this part here. So that's what I'm going to do. This is already pre-drilled 2 holes. So what I'm going to do is drill at least 1 hole and get some metal rod and make sure that is a nice tight fit to this part. Then the next step is to get some of these legs in place, and just put a couple on right now. What I would suggest, if you have this kit, is when you do that, make sure you have some sort of rat tail file And if this is a tight fit, either sand this bit down or enlarge this hole, because I did have a bit of an accident and managed to snap off one of the pegs on here. So not a catastrophe, but something to keep in mind for sure. So I'm going to get on with this, and then we'll be getting some sort of approximation of this looking like it's finished. I think the most difficult thing to get right is the paint, because you never really know the exact color unless somebody on the team remembers, you know, oh yeah, I used Persia Moonstone Blue or whatever, or Ford Diamond White. Did put this rear tank on and got the 3 legs on. The 3 legs are in Tamiya grey primer, and yeah, they're way too dark. Even against white primer, I think even if this was some sort of shade of grey, I think these are still going to be too dark. Looking at the original on screen, it does seem like everything is all one colour for the most part. So I've been playing around with some greys. I did work on this elevator piece, whatever you want to call it. Did put plastic card panels each side, and yeah, despite moaning about a lot of things that I do with regards to my own work, these 2 strips of plastic card, loving how it looks. Yeah, if everything else was as successful, I think, as me slapping 2 bits of rectangular plastic card down, things would be great. Also made this rectangular box. This is to connect this elevator piece to the inside. Once the top's on, you're not going to see it. But I think even so, it's going to have to be attached to the interior of this somehow. It's not going to float around in space, is it? Even with the moon's gravity, it still needs to be attached. So, but anyway, that's just another example of one of the greys. This I like, but it's kind of bluish. So I'm not quite sure. I do like this though. And then there's this lighter grey, which I'm also liking a lot. Now, this top section is kind of a conveyor belt, so I'm thinking a nice kind of rubber black. I do have a rubber black, so I'm going to use that on there. Yeah, obviously you can mix and match, and that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. But I think for the most part, I'm going to try this color on the main section and see how that looks. Oh, and of course, there's these 3 mobile parts, whatever you want to call these. And I've been playing around with the color of what the track should be, bearing in mind that when the original laser tanks were built, the model kits seem to come with a silverish, greyish track as opposed to black. So don't really want to use black unless I have to. This is a dark aluminium, regular aluminium, and this is a gunmetal. And I think the gunmetal is looking like the main contender because it's kind of darker than regular aluminium, but not as dark as the dark aluminium. So I think it would tie in nicely with the laser tank track. So probably going to go with that. But these mobile parts are also going to get a custom coat of grey just to make them stand out a little bit. So going to play around with the greys and see which looks best. I've been playing around with the greys, and as you can see on this conveyor belt section, I applied the black rubber, and surprise, surprise, I really like it. I don't know how well it's picking it up on camera, but also there's a very slight texture that I left on from the 3D print, just to give it some, extra realism, because I think it just adds a little bit of depth there. Don't think I'm finished totally with this section. I might add some recessed color or some highlight color, whatever, but I think for the most part I like that, so happy with that. I lightened up this part, not too light, but it just needs to be a little bit different, just to give it some visual interest. Masked off this section because this top part still needs working on. That's a little bit darker, so still got that to do. The two trackways, runways, whatever, kept those the same color. Basically, I'm really liking these. I thought because they were a little bit on the blue side that they might not work, but yeah, I'm happy with those, so I'm going to keep those the same for right now. And the main section, well, surprise, surprise, I'm fairly happy with how this is turning out. So yeah, I think this is looking quite similar from what I can tell to the original color. Still needs some more paint applied, but it's going on quite nicely. There's still a lot of detailing to do, and there's things like this black square here and some other pieces to pick out. And yeah, these have covered fairly nicely for saying they were such a dark grey. But I think this is probably a good place to finish for part one, because this there's quite a bit of work been done on it, so I'm happy with the progress so far. It's going to give me time to plan what I'm going to do detailing wise. Coming up in part two, I'll be making extensive use of this fine grey gravel from AK and building the diorama. So it's going to be my first diorama, so a little bit of trepidation. We're going to see how that goes, but I hope you stick around for that. Part two coming up soon. Just also to say, I've been convinced to go on to Instagram. So I do have an Instagram. I'll put a link down below, and if anybody wants to take a look at that, feel free. But yeah, so like I say, good place to finish part one. And if you've made it this far, as always, I really appreciate everybody who watches, and thanks for all the likes and comments. They're also appreciated. I do read everyone. And yeah, so just want to say thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one. Cheers.